أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to our third meeting in Ramadan, exploring the inner world for inshallah surrender and full sincerity, ikhlas. Today we have, in addition to the text that we had started last time, drop from the Sea of Tawheed from Mithnawi al-Arabi al-Nouri. The last 2 weeks we've been reading parts of this short but very dense, rich passage. One of the things we talked about last time was not owning ourselves. I don't own myself. Inni lastu maliki. And then the second one is death is real. And today we have an additional text on contemplating death. Before we go on though, is there anyone who would like to share anything from your reflection or journey last week? If anyone would like to share anything about being property of God, inni lastu maliki, or anything from last week. Okay, then feel free to share along the way also in this short meeting. So I don't know how shall we just jump to the new text, because we haven't really gone in depth with these. I want to take a moment to summarize for us. We said in this piece we emphasized 4 words and 4 sentences, at least read them. So, and 4 words were these 4 transformative concepts of looking at the world with indicative meaning, معنى حرفي in Arabic, as opposed to ismi, معنى ismi, nominative meaning. And then we touched on how intention and viewpoint perception can be transformative. The same action, the same facts, same observation can be radically different and have radically different results if we are looking at it with the right perception, right perspective, viewpoint, nazar, and with right intention, and not just as things in themselves, but things pointing to the one beyond, to God's infinite power and wisdom and beautiful qualities. So a lot can be said, and we have discussed a lot in the Receiving New Halakas for years, these ideas. So there's almost always more that we can go into. So I don't know what kind of a summary I'm trying to make here, but as for the sentences, we had a couple of sentences, almost like principles to guide our everyday existence. And one of them was, I don't own myself. And we have agency, that's one, but that is just a shadow. The agency we have is to be used to relate to beautiful names of God and divine agency, which will come back to, I think, in the fourth principle a bit more. So the second principle is that death is real. So perhaps we can read this and then we can unpack it further through this meditation on death selection from flashes. And perhaps also I can have a short meditation at the end of death. What do you think? Shall we go ahead with this? Who would like to read this paragraph here? Death is real. Okay, so then I'll go ahead and read. Second, death is real. This tremendous world cannot be built on the columns of this life and body, for they are not eternal or made of iron or rock. In fact, they are made of flesh, blood, and bones. A variety of different things congruently come together for a few days, yet remain poised to part ways at any time. How can a palace as vast as the world be built on expectations alone, on this frail and corrupted foundation and decayed slag column? Um, any comments on this? Death is real. This tremendous world cannot be built on the columns of this life. Dr. Yamina, do you have any insights that you can share here?
Assalamu alaikum. I mean, as if we take it as something to understand intellectually, it seems straightforward and simple. However, how many times do we live with this simple reality? If we check in with sincerity and honesty, we'll find out that most of the time, it's not part of our perception of life, of ourselves, of life. Which means that the heart needs to be involved, the soul, the ruh needs to be involved. That's why we need dhikr. Remember, remember, remember again and again and again. Because just because we have an information, we know something as an information, we don't deny it, does not make it our belief in life. It needs to be internalized. That's why iman is in the qalb, in the heart. First, we have to make peace with this reality, surrender to this reality. That will happen in the sadr, in the chest, and we will feel expansion and peace, and then stay with this. It means this is to be contemplated, to be witnessed again and again, to be tasted, to be present with, until it becomes part of our perception of life, which is the reality. Because when we are not like that, we are actually acting as if it was not, as if death is not real, as if things are not transient, as if we're not going to leave this world anytime. And when we live that way, which is called ghafla, mindlessness, then we lose a lot. We lose a lot, because even if all our goals and all our dreams are fulfilled, let's say, then so what? Death is real. They will all end up with death, because it means we are not investing in something that is lasting. That's why the intention, when we make that intention to find the way to eternity, to eternal life, to after death, that's when we will feel the need for divine guidance. And that's when we will be patient. We will listen truly and hear the message, the Quran, the message of the Quran, And that's where we are told to look at things as what they are, as signs, as pointing to something beyond, which is معنى حرفي, instead of what we do normally by default, which is معنى اسمي. And once we have that intention to listen and learn, and we get trained into looking at things as they are, it's a training. It means it doesn't happen overnight. Even a very simple thing like driving a car doesn't happen overnight. I can't just give you pictures or show you a video or give you instruction. This is how you drive. And then you say, oh, okay, I can drive. But you've never been on a car.
For goodness sake.
Or you never even try to drive. And this is very simple. It's not even something like that involves the inner feelings and perception and everything. So now, once the more we get that training, the more our perception will start changing, and we'll see how everything is potentially related to akhirah, here and now, to the beautiful names of God here and now. This is repeated in the Quran again and again. And the door to that eternal realm of the beautiful names of God here and now that make not only sense and give true purpose, but also it has everything that we long for, everything that we're working very hard for, we want to achieve, is there. And the gate to that realm, to that world, is transience, is death. Because death is real, that's when we look into it, it becomes the mirror or the door, the gate onto something beyond. But when we don't feel the need for divine guidance, or when we do not seek help and refuge from whoever makes us, I don't even want to say God at this stage, then death is scary, transience is scary, and we run away from it. But we shouldn't run, we should stay there. When we stay there, it opens up. And it opens up to something very amazing. So death is real. It's like analyst to Maliki. We can't say God is my owner. God is my owner is an information. It's a claim. It's a claim without any evidence. So I may have lots of evidence, intellectual evidence, which is correct, but I have not internalized them. In my real life, I feel like I am my own owner. So saying God is my owner does not have an effect on me because it's not my true belief. So that's why we stay, the Shahada starts with La ilaha, then illallah will become obvious. The more I do La ilaha, the more I will be brought to illallah will reveal itself. I will be able to confirm it. But in my inner world, I have to, so La ilaha la malika. There is no owner except God. But if I am the owner, when I say God is the owner, it doesn't mean much. It doesn't touch my heart. My heart doesn't even feel anything.
But
if I, yeah.
When you say this, and there's a lot of things are precious here, but the last thing that you've just mentioned, I want to share my emotional reaction to it in the hopes of getting more healing here. So La ilaha, you said, I need to focus on La ilaha. There is no God, meaning I'm not running the show, I am not the owner, so that illallah will reveal itself. But just La ilaha, or maybe I'm just talking from an armchair. I haven't tried it enough. But when just la ilaha is scary, because if I'm not the owner, like similar to death is real. I mean, it's real, but then it's scary if immediately it doesn't transform into an opening into akhirah, because then it's all of this is
It
unreal.
is true if I'm not following divine guidance. Still, some people still find something even without the divine guidance. If you have the courage and the honesty, at least, like, let's not deceive ourselves. Death is real. I'm not the owner. And eventually they may be guided to something divine. But here we know intellectually that there is an answer.
There is an answer, yeah.
So we have the map with us. It's not like we're in totally
Dark, or taking one step at a time.
in darkness. We have the GPS. We just need to drive and follow up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I really appreciate how all of these are interconnected. Death is real, is connected to I'm not the owner, and they're both also connected to mana harfi, mana ismi, meaning looking at the things on the account of their creator as opposed to just looking at them in themselves. They're all interconnected, because why are we afraid in the dark? Because we think this is it, and then even though death is real, we have the struggle against pretending that it's not real, whereas it's really real, and it is coming anytime, and we know this, and we're constantly pretending that, because if that is real, then what is the meaning of anything? And yet precisely that, death is real, so that I can see that these things are not here just to come and go. They are pointing to something more. I am part of this tremendous journey, this tremendous flowing, and I am pretending to be my owner. I'm pretending that things point to themselves. These two are connected. So the moment I get to open up that death is really real, and I am not my owner, that will be also my being opened up to this immensely beautiful news that thankfully there is the eternal source of all power and all beauty, and that's enduring, and that those good news are connected to this la ilaha, this undoing of illusions. And that's so interesting, because probably we'll get to this next week. In the third principle, Imam Nursi here talks about living with Firdaus-like happiness, paradise-like world here. And that felicity, that happiness is connected to these waking up from these illusions. I see.
Because if death, when I am ignoring the reality of death is real, I am accepting, without realizing, of course, the illusion that things are lasting from themselves in themselves. And so it seems like everything is just there. From time to time, something may change. From time, of course, we bracket out the sky always changing, the weather, the seasons, all that is out of this. We're focused on few things, and they become like our landmark. And that's why when there are people and we hear someone passed away, it becomes like a shock, because it's a potential, something potentially can wake us up. But if we are too scared, it's going to wake us up from our
delusion,
sleep. Delusional sleep. So we very quickly get over it.
Try to snap out of it, yeah.
Or we grieve, the grief doesn't end, because the grief is there to also fulfill a purpose. And get us over means get us over this world, get us to the real, to the reality. But if we don't get there, we know there is something. I'm not talking about intellectually. That's not even knowing. That is information, because the true knowing comes from the heart. If you know, I am walking in the street and someone says, be careful, there is a truck coming. That information, if I truly believe it, I immediately run aside. But if I carry on walking, I say, okay, thank you. Yeah, there is a truck running. It means I don't believe it. Or I believe that the truck is another street or something like that. Whatever it is, it's not true belief if it does not shake me, it makes me change my behavior. First my perception and then my behavior. So death is real means everything is transient, everything is changing, I'm changing, nothing is static. And this is good news, because that's the only way I can become aware and start wondering, hey, since everything is transient and death is real and everything is going and coming, where are they coming from first? And then where are they going? Then I start seeing beyond what is here. Because when death is real, is not part of my perception, then this limited thing, I don't see the flow, I'm unaware of the flow, and it feels like I have to hold on to it because it's my only reality. In fact, it's the weakest form, the weakest manifestation of reality. It is not the reality. It's coming and going, it's changing all the time. If you have a small kid at home, you see it even more clearly, but we don't seem to integrate all these things together. So we live in a life where things are not, there is no tawheed, no unifying. It's all piecemeal, and they may contradict each other. That's why we don't feel that peace and that joy and that inner sa'ada, that satisfaction, because it's full of contradictions. So death is real, is really what will, the more we stay with it, the more we contemplate, the more we will, the questions will start changing. Where are they coming from? There is something. Yes, death is real. Yes, yesterday is not here, but there is now. Where is this coming from? Then it opens up the door, the gate to this endless flow of life and existence, and that's the real thing.
Yeah, so with that, perhaps Dr. Yamina, how about we go back to this text in the beginning here. This is from Flashes, and a short piece on rabita al-mawt, meditation or contemplation of death. And we kind of connected to what you have just said. Is a way of facing death is real. That becomes an opening for us, inshallah, to recognize it's just a flow, continuous flow. Nothing is, there's no way to hang on to anything. But that can lead us to, as you have just said, to understanding, to recognizing, or to noticing is a better word, to noticing, where is this coming from, this flow, this endless flow? Nothing is staying in its place, coming, going. Where is this coming from? And then also, perhaps, where is this going to, flowing into? And it will open us an immensely beautiful and expansive world, as opposed to this little illusion that we try to keep ourselves in. Mina wrote in the chat, she said, I had a Chinese friend who was very dear to me, but unfortunately she was an atheist. When I asked her, what do you believe in? She said, I believe in myself. Up to now, I had no idea what she meant, but now I understand. And this is our story, to the extent that I feel we run away from recognizing, being honest with truth, that truth of transience, everything passing, death is real. To that extent, we start focusing on, we won't call it believing in, but that's what we do. Like we start trying to pin things down and say, well, everything is passing, but I have this career, or I have this situation, or I have this status, or I'm trying to gather this, I'm trying to hold on to this. And that's where we end up with mana ismi, looking at things on their account, and it only yields more transience. So with that, shall we turn to here? By the way, I'm talking a lot, so I would love if anybody would like to jump in and share a comment or a question, please don't hesitate. So shall we go ahead and read this meditation on death from an excerpt from Imam Nursi again?
Inshallah.
Yes. So who would like to read?
I can read it.
Okay, thank you.
O my companions in the service of the Qur'an, one of the most effective means of attaining and preserving sincerity, ikhlas, is contemplation of death. Rabita al-mawt. Yes, it is worldly ambition that damages sincerity. Oh, okay. It is worldly ambition, extended desires, al-amal, that damages sincerity and drives a person to hypocrisy, riya, and the world. And it is the contemplation of death that gives disgust at hypocrisy and leads to sincerity. That is, thinking of death and realizing that this world is transient saves one from the tricks of the soul, nafs. Indeed, through the instruction form from verses of the All-Wise Qur'an, like كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ, every soul is tasting death. And إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ, truly you are bound to die, and truly they are bound to die. From ayat 3:185 and 39:30. Sufis and people of truth made the contemplation of death fundamental to their spiritual journeying. They dispelled the illusion of eternity on earth, which is the source of worldly ambition. They imagined and conceived of themselves as dead and being placed in the grave. They imagined and conceived of themselves as dead and being placed in the grave. So just to review for myself, they dispelled the illusion of eternity and imagined and conceived of themselves as dead and being placed in the grave. Through prolonged thoughts, the evil commanding soul, nafs al-amal, becomes saddened and affected by such imagining, and to an extent gives up its far-reaching ambitions and hopes. There are numerous advantages in this contemplation. The hadith, the meaning of which is, frequently mention death, which dispels pleasure and makes it bitter, teaches this contemplation of death. Akthirul dhikr هادم اللذات. However, since our path is not tariqa, Sufi order, but path of haqiqa, truth, we do not have to perform this contemplation in an imaginary and hypothetical form like the people of tariqa. Our way is not bringing the future to the present by thinking of the end. Our way is not bringing the future to the present by thinking of the end. Rather, it is to go in our minds from the present to the future and observe it. Yes, having no need of imagination or assuming, one may look onwards and see one's own funeral. Wow. Which the single fruit on the tree of this brief life, which is the single fruit on the tree of this brief life. In this way, one may look on one's own death, and if one goes a bit further, one can see the death of this century, and going further still, observe the death of this world, opening the way to complete sincerity.
Thank you, Sarah. I wonder if we should just go ahead and read this other text cross-sectioned here. In which he's actually offering a contemplation himself of death. There is a difference here that he makes between the traditional Sufi way of doing this and then the one he's suggesting. I don't know if it's a subtle point that I don't know if we should focus on it or not, but in the traditional one that I had read as a younger person, in that you literally imagine yourself that you have just died and then they're shrouding you and people are saying the janazah prayers on you and then they leave you and they bury you in the grave and they put soil on you and then they stay, you know, in your cover and they cry over you and then slowly everybody leaves and then you're all by yourself. So you kind of imagine this, you know, closing your eyes and really like going through that journey. And it does, for those of us who tried, it does have an effect that you feel when you come back from that meditation. You feel like, oh man, I'm alive and I still have opportunity to do right. And because, so it does give a sense, of course, I guess, depending on how deeply the person does it, it does give a good sense of, you know, waking up. And here Imam Nursi is saying it shouldn't be just an imagination. You should think of yourself actually walking to the end of this road, because this is the end of the road. I mean, death is the only fruit of your funeral, is the only result you have at the end of this life on earth. And so look at it, don't imagine you're bringing something imaginary, a kind of lab situation, but really look into it. This is real. So on that note, perhaps, I don't know, it's maybe we can go ahead and read another page or so.
I think that is, for me, it's a huge difference.
Huh.
I mean, in the tariqah, some even went into like a coffin and sit somewhere to make the contemplation easier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy, not everyone. And even when you do it, because part of us says like oh, it's imagination, as if.
Mm-hmm.
But here what he's saying, it's the reality, because right now, I know it's the reality based on my experience of the past. 10 years ago is not here. 20 years ago is not here. Last year is not here. Last month is not here. Last week is not here. Yesterday is not here. This morning is not here. 1 hour ago is not here. 1 minute ago is not here. 1 second ago is not here. The more we stay with this reality, contemplating means just stay. You feel it. You don't just, because it's a ruler cannot measure volumes, cannot measure weight. The intellect cannot measure how it feels, how transients feel. It cannot measure transience. Just, okay, it passes. What does it really mean? It has to be felt in the heart. Just like the fact that I say something is sweet, it's a landmark, a sign, word that has to have a point of reference. And the point of reference is my experience of sweetness. So I'm referring to that. So I have something, it means something to me. Otherwise, it wouldn't mean anything. So it's the same for transience. I have to stay with it and really take it in. And how does it feel? Yeah, it is something like magical. Yesterday, we were at an iftar and there was this little cute girl. And the first thing she says after Assalamu alaikum, she says, I am 4. You know, just like you say, I am Yamina, I am this and that. She says, I'm 4. And okay. And so I guessed that probably she turned 4 newly. And I learned that, yes, in March she turned 4. So I understand the child. The child is amazed. And then I said, oh, you are 4, so I can call you 4? She said, yes, I'm 4. I was 3 and I'm 4. Isn't that really a miracle? Like the child is more honest. We think we know. Yes, I was 3, I am 4. What does it mean? Like overnight, it changed? What happened in between? What does it even mean? So the child is trying to internalize this. What does it mean? But we put a label on it and we say, yeah, yes, you are 4, of course. And then she says, probably there is nothing here, and stops wondering about it. It's the same with transience. We say, yes, yes.
Everything
yesterday.
Yeah, it's transient. Yes, yes. But
what does it mean? It means things are flowing. It means there is an endless source of things, and things keep coming and going and keep going, coming and going. And what does it mean that yesterday I was there, today I'm here? And when we are adults, we don't see the change very often. We see it after a few years. But with kids, and then you see the kid after a few months, and the kid is grown up. There is a new being actually there. What does it mean? What's going on here? So in that sense, here what he's saying, you don't need to imagine, because there is plenty to observe, to witness. Shahada, shahada, shahada. There is no Islam without shahada. Shahada is, I am witnessing, I'm living it right now, I'm tasting it, I'm seeing it, and I can witness now. That's why it is the main pillar, the first pillar of Islam, and it doesn't look to the other pillars, seem to look outwardly to you do something, but shahada, it seems like you're not doing anything, you're just saying words. Yeah, but those words, I'm saying it because they represent something I am living, performing, experiencing. I don't even find the words for that, but it's a reality. It's not just, okay, they told me to say this, I say this. No, it is, I am saying what I am experiencing. So it's something that I am supposed to be performing all the time as a surrenderer, as a Muslim. I'm surrendering to the reality that I'm witnessing. And if I'm not witnessing anything the whole day, the Prophet ﷺ says, then you are going backward. You have, because there is a new flow. They send lots of things and I didn't notice anything. I didn't witness the new like every day they send me lots of things. Someone sends me lots of food and gifts and things. And I am not excited anymore. And I don't say thank you anymore. And I don't bother anymore. I say, they just come. No, if I really care about who is sending them, I would just go like a child and check. What did they send me today? Especially if I know that the one who is sending is not sending me things haphazardly. Whatever he's sending is sending according to my need. So it also tells me, gives me a direction, an istiqamah for my own life, and renewal of the shahada, renewal of my iman, renewal of my gratitude again and again. And especially if that thing that is being sent is something that is needed, like someone, it's like water. Oh, every day they send water. Yeah, but I need it to drink, to clean, to... One day, let them not send water for a few days and you'll see. So it comes back to the shahada. So that's why he's saying you don't need imagination. Actually, what was it in the Turkish? And in the Turkish, it says, carries on. İkinci sebep, imani tahkikinin kuvvetiyle. You see? It comes to imani tahkiki. It's based on tahqiq, on confirmation, on shahada, here and now, always, inshallah.
Same, the word tasting, like shahada can be like we taste it each and every passing moment. And I was listening to someone here saying how connected they are, like hazim al-lazzat. Lazzat is also from taste. Once you taste anything, then it's laziz, And kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut, you are tasting
Dawq.
death.
It's a dawq as well.
Yeah, it's from zawq, yeah. So witnessing is basically tasting it right here and now with each passing moment, how each passing moment is just, it's gone, but it's transforming somewhere else, So if we can just taste those, keep tasting it, and inshallah we'll be in the mode of passing to the next realm, inshallah, each and every moment.
Yeah, the second verse also, إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. How would you translate this literally, Dr. Yamina? You in the singular, verily you. Like my Arabic is not that good, but I thought like it meant you are dead. إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ.
It could mean that too, yes.
Because when somebody dies, we say,
إنه ميت.
Yeah.
هو ميت.
Yeah. وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. So it has that strong sense of this is something that we are experiencing all the time. I mean, the way you put it was very painful, but very, in some way, but very, so relieving that it's yesterday is gone, my morning is gone. We're constantly actually transient and experiencing transience, and yet there is this al-amal, endless desires, which is translated here as worldly ambition. But I shall do this and I shall do that and I shall do this, as if I'm here forever, and as if, and I'm gonna whine over this forever, and I'm gonna keep this grudge against this person forever, and because I'm here and I have to really continue this whatever to get what I want, and or what I think is appropriate for me, or what I think I deserve, and all of that becomes interrupted with remembering death. And the hadith also encourages this. Yeah. With that, perhaps we can read his actual or one example of how he's contemplating death. Here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so could I have someone read, maybe someone else? Zara, Chima, are you available? Or Yusra?
I'm available.
Okay, so then could you read this starting from here? Oh, my compassionate sustainer.
Okay. Oh, my compassionate sustainer and magnificent creator. Due to my mistaken choices, my life and youth are lost and gone, and all that remains to me as their fruits are grievous sins, abasing sorrows, and misguiding doubts and scruples. I draw close to the grave, shamefaced, with this heavy load and sick heart. Like my departed friends, peers, and relations, without deviating to left or right, I am involuntarily approaching the door of the grave. The grave is the first stopping place on the road leading from this fleeting realm to everlasting separation and all eternity. It is the first door opening onto it. But I am attached to the realm of this world and am captivated by it, and I have understood with absolute certainty that it is transient and will die, will perish and depart. The beings within it travel on convoy after convoy and disappear as if to be observed. This world is exceedingly cruel and treacherous, especially for those like me with evil commanding souls. For one pleasure, it inflicts 1,000 pains. For a single grape, it deals 100 slaps. O my compassionate sustainer and magnificent creator, as with the saying, all that is coming is close, I see now that soon I will have... One second. O my compassionate sustainer and magnificent creator, as with the saying, all that is coming is close, I see now that soon I will have donned my shroud, mounted the bier, bade farewell to my friends. Approaching my grave, I call out to the court of your mercy through the mute tongue of my corpse and the articulate tongue of my spirit. Mercy, mercy, most kind, most clement, deliver me from the shame of my sins. Now I have reached the brink of my grave. I am standing at the head of my corpse, stretched out beside it. Raising my head to the court of your mercy, I cry out beseechingly with all my strength, mercy, mercy, most clement, most kind, deliver me from the heavy burden of my sins. Now I have entered my grave. I am wrapped in my shroud. Those who came to send me on my way have left me alone and departed. I await your forgiveness and mercy. I see clearly that other than you, there is no place of refuge or succor. I cry out with all my strength at the ugly face of sin, the savage form of rebellion against God, at the narrowness of the place. Mercy, mercy, most merciful one, most clement, most kind, just judge, deliver me from the companionship of my ugly sins. Broaden my place, my God, your mercy is my recourse. Your beloved, the mercy of all the worlds, the means of your mercy, I complain not about you, but about my soul and my state. O my magnificent creator and compassionate sustainer, your creature and servant, called Saeed, is both rebellious and impotent, and heedless and ignorant and sick and base, and a sinner and aged, and a wrongdoer, and like a runaway slave. But 40 years late, he has repented and wants to return to your court. He seeks refuge in your mercy. He confesses his countless sins and errors. Suffering your perfect mercy, you accept him.
And you skip the line.
He seeks refuge in your mercy. He confesses his countless sins and errors. Suffering from doubts of every sort of affliction, he beseeches and entreats you. If of your perfect mercy you accept him, if you forgive and have mercy on him, that befits you, for you are the most merciful of the merciful. If you do not accept me, whose door can I approach? What other door is there? Other than you, there is no sustainer to whose court recourse may be made. Other than you, there is nothing fit to be worshipped with whom refuge may be sought. There is no God but you. You are one. You have no partners. The last word in this world and the first word in the hereafter and in the grave is, I testify that there is no God but God, and I testify that Muhammad is his messenger. May God Almighty grant him blessings and peace.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Zaha.
The last part in Arabic is لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك آخر الكلام في الدنيا وأول الكلام في الآخرة وفي القبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم. And the other one was al-aman, al-aman, ya Rahman, ya Hannan, ya Mannan, ya Dayyan. The first one was again al-aman, al-aman, ya Hannan, ya Mannan. Each time was al-aman, al-aman, whatever. Mercy, mercy is actually not mercy, mercy. Al-aman is not saying rahma, rahma. Aman, al-aman. Translation can be khajala became what was it?
Burden.
No. Of my sins. It said the sanki utanç gibi
Yeah.
tercüme etmiş. Shame was it?
But khajala isn't it shame?
No, it's embarrassment.
What is the difference?
There is a difference.
That's very subtle for Arabic, I think. I don't know, maybe embarrassment of my sins and shame of my sins. It's what is the difference in Arabic between shame and embarrassment? Is it like emphasizing the person more?
Maybe it's not important here.
Okay.
Just al-aman, if you know the words, it's asking for safety, for security, for aman.
Asking for safety and security and deliverance and compassion.
I feel that if you know God, you don't ask for mercy from God. You will ask from, or the way I understand it, at least in French, mercy is from someone who is zalim, or you don't expect him to be very kind, but you are asking for mercy.
I see. More like a kindness, a compassion is, and safety. A man is safety. Yeah, you want safety. It's like somebody's trying to cross a border and saying, give me a man, safe passage.
Yes.
Yeah. It is interesting because as he's doing this, contemplation on death, there's so much reference to invoking of safety and compassion. I think perhaps it helps us as we do this contemplation on our own to be able to. I was going to say to be able to do the meditation, but I don't think it's about to be able to do the meditation, because meditation is not an imaginary experiment. So it's really, as we go into that reflection that I am dying, I have died, and this is the reality, then our immense need for help and compassion becomes very visible, very felt. So maybe that's why he's constantly, as he's going through that reflection, he's constantly referring to asking for divine help and compassion and forgiveness. But I remember, maybe this is a side point, but many years ago when you were having these more small group meditations, reflections, retreats, one time you led us in it was a very small group, you led us in a contemplation of death. But then you said, don't do it by yourself or something. It was a bit different from this one. But perhaps, there's so much reference to asking for forgiveness and.
But it was a retreat, it's different.
It had a different component too. It wasn't exactly like this. But perhaps that's why there's so much reference to asking for help and forgiveness. But does anyone want to share anything? Sarah, do you have something? I don't know if yeah.
I'm
Go.
just I so for the first part of innaka and how everything, because I've had such a close encounter with death of my brother Allah yarhamu, and all of our beloveds who have passed, it's like the summary of my feeling, what he said in the first part. Everything just becomes a bunch of things when the Rasul said to remember the thing that destroys pleasures often makes sense, because once you see what's left behind, it's just all things that are meaningless. But somehow we sometimes wish and desire them, and I don't know, want to collect them and want more things. Truly, like the path of having less things, minimalism is the true path of summary. And at this point, there's no use of getting more things because everything just turns into trash at the end. Literally, there's so much stuff. So I'm always just looking at the things and just there becomes a detachment. And he wrote it so beautifully in the paragraph, is everything just a bunch of things. In you yourself, right? You're one breath away from death in every moment. And there's nothing more real than seeing people pass and take their last breath. It's just one breath they're there and one breath they're not. And I've seen it twice. So it's the breath itself is the biggest testifier of the truth of the flow. I wish I can do what Dr. Yana said more often, just witnessing the flow of all things. Because from, for example, noon to Maghrib, say, it's such a big, it seems like a stable chunk of time, and then Maghrib there's a drastic change. There's the sunset. But the breath itself is coming and departing. And I remember him saying it at some point in Imam Nursi rahimahullah. We're like twinkling in our existence. You think of a star. We're not actually real. We're made. You're given a moment of life, and then the exhale is the almost departure, and then you're given the next moment of life. SubhanAllah. In that it's like you're twinkling in your existence. You're not actually existing. You're not self-existent. You're not hayy. You're given haya one breath at a time. It's very different. See? And I wonder about this part. So that's just and I invite Tesnia if she feels comfortable sharing, because I know she has a beautiful. piece on this. I don't know if it's my over-exaggerated belief in his mercy, or maybe having tasted his forgiveness and his love and his mercy, that I don't know if I'm so like I lean into it so much. Not that I don't fear, but this part of it, of seeing yourself as such an yes, we are all constantly falling short and sinning, and less than, undeserving of such infinite unconditional love, as far as not undeserving like existentially, but just we don't really do much. He's just amazing. So then my question is, is it my delusion that I guess don't necessarily see myself as such a, I don't know, I'm not sure how to phrase it. I'm not sure, Dr. Mina, if you received the question, but I don't know if it's just that I'm so hopeful in his mercy and so convinced of his love and forgiveness that I just stay in the present moment, and then whatever is the past, it's just asking for his mercy, and also just not looking at it, thinking about it, staying in the now and just hoping for the best future and relying on his mercy, I guess, as opposed to having this not self-abasing, but this very deep regret and deep, seeing myself as such a embarrassing, you know what I mean? I'm not sure if that question is clear, but I'm wondering about it. Because he's expressing it so beautifully. And I don't know if that just means I'm so deluded or not to say that I don't see myself as a sinner constantly, but just not, I don't know.
If I'm understanding you, Sarah, you're saying that perhaps he's constantly referring to him being heedless and having sinned so much and so on, that it strikes us a bit a lot, especially for somebody like him, who
But he doesn't do that everywhere. This is a particular place where he's contemplating about death. And when you think about death, we all feel the same, because if I were to die right now, we always, even if you think you did your best, we know deep down that it was not the best. I could do much better. That's different. It's a different situation, different context.
And perhaps, Dr. Yamina, it also, like, I wonder this as well, that it also seems to clash with the contemporary wisdom, where they keep saying that, you need to self-love and, shame and guilt is not very healthy and you shouldn't beat yourself up. So I think they are talking in a different context or wavelength. This is a different wavelength, but I don't know how to put it or how to reconcile it.
Reconcile what with what?
Like, because we have this kind of conventional wisdom these days, especially that, don't beat yourself up, don't feel too guilty. Guilt is not a healthy feeling,
But that's, so if we had a board right now, we have the right side and left side. Left side is ismi. Everything exists in itself, of itself. I own myself. Everyone owns itself. There is no afterlife. There is no eternity. We don't think about eternity. Of course, we have a sense of eternity, but we don't think about it. On the right is harfi. So everything is an ayah, everything is a messenger from God, everything is speaking and reflecting the eternal, beautiful names of God, the source of everything. Everything is transient and nothing can own itself because they are transient. They are being made right here and now. I am being sustained. Everything is being sustained. So when they say you love yourself, it doesn't make any sense on the right side, because on the right side, when I know, the more I know God, the more there is no way not to love God. And once you love God, you come back and love everything in his name, because everything is from God. The first one, you have to love myself once and convince myself, actually deep down, I don't know exactly what it means. And then I have to love my neighbor one by one, force myself. Well, force myself. Part of it is in the fitra anyways, but there are so many things that tells me, why should I? The ego says, why should I bother? Of course, if you bless people, even in the ismi, in the left side, because it is more in alignment with the fitra, with the reality, it's going to be always better than not. It's like, even if you're grateful, not to God, but just grateful, it is still better in this world than being ungrateful or not being grateful. But in the other one, we are grateful, and we're grateful to the giver, the owner of everything. Once we are grateful to him, then everything becomes more valuable. Even like things that we take for granted becomes very valuable. And we are more prone to be grateful to people because we see them as channels to that divine blessings. That's why when it says أكثروا ذكر هادم اللذات, Sarah started with that. Like, it spoils, the more we experience death and we remember death, it spoils the pleasure of life, but it spoils the pleasure of the transient, the pleasure of the worldly. But in everything worldly, there is an aspect that looks to the worldly, that is transient, and myriads of aspects that looks to eternity, to the beautiful names of God. And those aspects, they reflect the face of God. They reflect the beautiful names of God. Even the pleasure, the transient pleasure, is a mirror to the beautiful names of God. And so now those worldly transient pleasures are spoiled because of our remembrance of God. But if we learn from the Quran how to read the signs and experience them in our life, become a witness, a living taster, witness to the beautiful names, then now we are experiencing pleasures that pertains not only to the physical, but also to the heart, to the soul, that looks to the divine, to eternity. So life becomes much more. We lose one transient pleasure, and we gain many lasting, meaningful pleasures.
And in fact, it just occurred to me as you just said that then guilt also becomes pleasurable, because that becomes an occasion to be forgiven, to appreciate, to experience.
And it doesn't last if it is seen for what it is, for a reminder to, as you said, like, you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
if it is an occasion, an opportunity to come back to God, to make tawbah, to ask for forgiveness, to remember my reality, my position in the world, who I am and how blessed we are, then it doesn't last, because now it fulfilled its purpose. I got the message, I read the message, I lived it, it goes. So it is with grief. Anything that pulls us down as an emotion, it's because we're staying there too long, because we are not fulfilling, we're not reading the sign, we're not seeing it for what it is, a messenger from God, bearing messages from beyond, from paradise, messages pertaining to paradise, to elevated emotions and pleasures that pertain to the ruh. So it's not now, that's it, there is no pleasure, we're going to cry and go in a cave and wait for akhirah. ما خلقت هذا باطلا. Allah, you have not created anything in vain, without meaning and purpose. Everything, the death, the grief of death, everything becomes beautiful in the harfi.
Just a question to kind of build on that. So even, the verses, the ayat in the Quran on hellfire, and then what comes to mind is the Prophet's dua, alayhi salam, the companion experience with those ayat, and even like praying with certain shuyukh. One sheikh, Allah yarhamah, used to be bawling his eyes out. He was born blind. He used to bawl his eyes out for all ayats of paradise and hellfire. So I feel like there needs to be sort of a healthy balance of what Imam Mursi is saying, because you're right, Isra, there's nowadays a very sort of like global push of self-love and as like a healing mechanism, which is necessary. And I think it can easily be sort of toxic if it's not balanced with sort of self-awareness of how truly deluded we are living. Just mostly heedless of the reality. And that heedlessness, even a moment of it, is completely cut off from mercy, from the infinite love and mercy. So a moment of heedlessness, and I guess this is how I reconcile what your question was to Dr. Amina, because what he's saying, I don't want to dismiss it as like this is just, when he's contemplating death. I do feel like we need to live, we hear much in the Islamic tradition of hope and fear, and the balance of that, not having too much hope, also being, self-aware of our just complete in a breath, honestly. And I think that was explained to me, I think by Dr. By like, one foot in paradise, one foot in hellfire, the companion who said that. It's because our state is so, it vacillates between being so connected in a moment and then many more moments of just pure horizontal, disconnected, I mode, I am, in some essence, I own myself, this is my feeling, I'm acting.
Normal, as long as we have already experienced, I'm not owner, I don't own myself, and so I have something to go back to. So when I remember, I have something to remember. The scary thing is I never experienced it, so I don't have anything to remember. Forgetting is okay. The journey is the forgetting intervals in the beginning are too long and the remembering is too short. And eventually that will become shorter and shorter, and the other one longer and longer. Or shorter in the sense that the moment we forget, very quickly we feel uncomfortable because now we are used to remembering and going back. So this journey only starts when we build that grounding that we can remember, that we can go back to. Inshallah. That's why dhikr is so important. And that's why those, we are told in the Quran, who don't make dhikr, then their shaitan becomes their qareen. There's no in between. But if we have a grounding, then we don't stay long enough for shaitan to be the qareen. We are not living a life of heedlessness. We just forget and come back, forget and come back. And each time as we come back, we appreciate it more. If we are on a journey of awareness, it's like you're hungry. Now you can appreciate the ni'mah, the blessing. So the problem is only if we are totally heedless and we never had an experience of iman, it is just information. That becomes like, yes, heedlessness, it's not forgetting, it's living in that state. But if you have that experience and you forget and then come back, yeah, that's how life is supposed to be. Even the Sahaba, they said, like, when we are with you, like we feel very strong. And then when we leave, we forget, he said. Yes. Otherwise, the angels would be like saluting you, like
At every corner, yeah?
yeah, you would be living with the angels. So that's okay. That's not the problem. Inshallah. Getting started and getting on the path, like a train has, you know, the trainway, how is it called? The railway. Getting on the railway is what matters. The istiqama is what matters.
Yeah, that's super helpful. So, and I love that because the vacillations become less, you know, if it's a pendulum swinging, it becomes less drastic from one side of remembering and then all the way to the opposite side of total forgetfulness. So that I'm wondering if this text, for example, this last one that we read, with his, you know, really just abasing, you know, seeing himself as such a horrible sinner, and like I'm wondering if that's the beginning, sort of, and then is it something that had the beginning, I mean, of sort of the journey into belief?
Not necessarily. It was not his beginning, definitely. It was maybe a breakthrough through a new, higher, a different path, but he started the path at a very, very young age.
So it's almost like a moment of true self-awareness of this lower self, who we are, and then that leads to the breakthrough, or is it supposed to be something that we're in, kind of, we revisit the state of?
It's always relative. Now it feels maybe too much and too abased and too, but this is because he's speaking to God, the Almighty, the all-powerful, the all-knowing, the all-compassionate, the one we owe everything 100%, the one who sustains my breath right now, my life, my hearing, my seeing, my everything. Because our awareness of what it means to be sustained 100%, because we forget often and it feels like I own myself. So it feels like, isn't that a little bit too much before God? But if the more we realize what it truly means that I don't own myself, then you say, but I prayed all the time. This guy is someone who is always lived a very, how do you say, saintly life compared to with us. Yes, but the Prophet ﷺ also says he made istighfar 70 times a day, means constantly. And as we are told in the Quran, make istighfar constantly. So he takes it to heart and he says he makes istighfar because for him, forgetting to be grateful, forgetting to be in the presence of God, forgetting is too much because God deserves the best. Everything we owe to him. There is no I except from him. So it's all relative to our understanding of who we are, therefore who God is as our Rabb. It's not because if, for instance, we may feel like I pray, I do this, I do that, like God, like I don't feel I'm that bad, like I'm doing quite much. Hey, you should be.
Yeah, even the prayer. I mean, I remember a passage from Nabi Nuria. So he would be in his transition to his breakthrough time, and he has, addressing himself, he says like, "What a shame that in the prayer you have, just it takes 1 hour, but in that 1 hour you're not with God. Like, you have so many hours, and just 1 hour of the day you're not with God. You know, his prayer is much elevated than ours, and let's think about our prayers. Like I did my prayer. What does that mean? How many minutes were you actually in the prayer, and how many minutes you weren't? So if you think about it that way, I mean, it does, from one perspective, it does look like, oh, did he murder someone? Like, what is this kind of sinfulness? But then, if we were just taking into account our prayers or our fasting,
Or even our gratitude, like I'm grateful to God, but how much am I aware what am I grateful for
Yeah.
every single cell in my body to be working properly, for this that. There's so many things to be grateful for. It's beyond my imagination. So if I stay with that daily and I get a sense of awe and I can only prostrate before God's, then I will understand that my gratitude is a tiny, too little for who God is and what I'm receiving from him. So it feels like you are embarrassed, like someone who is totally taking care of everything in your life. Whatever you want is happening, and you say thank you from time to time. I mean, if you have some conscience, you will feel that thank you is not enough. What can I do? How can I express my gratitude? So it's for me, it's not for God. So here it's all relative to how we perceive ourselves, therefore the blessings, how we are being sustained, who our Rabb, our sustainer is, and who God is. So I may feel that, oh, I am being very grateful to God. I'm very happy with myself. Someone else will feel that this is not enough. Someone else will feel like like this deserves constant, enormous amounts of awe and gratitude. And when you find that you can stay there, you feel like you are you're short on that. So that's it. It's not like a beginning.
Yes, that makes sense.
There's no beginning or there are landmarks in our life. We will realize that, oh, I thought I was very grateful and everything, but like now I feel that it is not enough because what I'm getting is much more than I can think of. So it's, let's say, it's a journey in becoming more and more aware and more surrendering also. Because I can be aware and I decide I'm not going to surrender. I'm not going to accept this reality. Why should I? If he didn't want, he shouldn't have given it to me. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. I'm making it up. It means I'm not truly aware, because if I'm truly aware, then if he doesn't give me, I wouldn't be here speaking anyway. But it just means that we have that freedom of will. We can exercise that to say yes or to say no. When we say yes to the reality, we are in surrender. We submit to the will of the maker, the creator. The more we surrender, the more our iman increases. As our iman increases and we live with that, it becomes ihsan, living in the presence of God. So from time to time, we will upgrade and it will feel like this is not enough. But it doesn't mean that we are stuck in not enough. Then it gives us the motivation to be more. More here does not mean I stop eating, working, sleeping, and now I am only praying, for instance, doing the salat. Although the Prophet ﷺ did definitely pray more than we do, and pray quantitatively and qualitatively more, but also our eating will be more reflective, more gratitude, more in the presence of God, the one who is feeding us, who is providing for us. So it becomes an act of worship, an act of knowing God, of living in his presence. So everything changes. That's with the intention, the perception changes. We learn from the Quran how to live with ma'na harfi, indicative meaning. It's an alchemy. You take rock, it makes it into diamond, not gold. You take transient, it makes it into eternal, coming from the eternal, going back to it, eternal. You take something that speaks to the ego, speaks to the ruh, speaks to the beautiful names of God. This is the journey. This is what's going to be perfected. So it's not only about the quantity, but more about the quality.
Okay. Thank you. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina. And Jazakallah khair, everyone, and Sarah also for your questions and comments. And we pause here, inshallah, for this time, and may this be an opening. And the text is available also in the newsletter, so we can go back to it if we wanted to, and inshallah we can make this contemplation of death as an aspect of our lives, as a more regular aspect of our lives, that contemplation of death, and all the other great things that Dr. Yamina has shared, inshallah, may be part of our journey, living intentionally, with presence, with gratitude, with witnessing, inshallah. So we'll, inshallah, may we meet again, inshallah, next week on Sunday, and last 10 days of Ramadan be blessed for all of you. And again, Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina, and Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you. It's the last 10 days. Lots of istighfar. Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Inshallah, lots of istighfar, especially in times of hardship and calamities. Istighfar is the key, and lots of hamd and shukr. we have only God to turn to in this very hard times, inshallah. So we have more motivation this year to make istighfar.
Inshallah, for ourselves and for the community and for everyone.
For the oppressed everywhere, there's so many we are not even hearing about.
We're hearing a bit more about Palestine these days, but so many people are suffering in the world, and maybe pray for all of them and ask for forgiveness for our implicit, explicit shortcomings as
Inshallah.
believers. Inshallah,
This journey on earth be easy and full of ease and compassion for everyone, inshallah.
Ameen. Ameen. Ameen. Jazakumullah khair.